A few years ago, I made the impulse purchase of this baseboard from White Rose Models without really thinking what I was going to use it for, which is unlike the other boards I bought, which I've always had a really good idea. This was a bit of an impulse purchase. And yeah, it's a bit of a different shape from the sorts of layouts I've been making. It's 147 centimeters by 40 centimeters, so it doesn't naturally lend itself to my usual small micro layout builds. But over the past year, I have had some ideas for what a good layout would look like on this board, which I'm going to talk to you about now. The first idea I came up with was for a terminus station, based on the very original Preston station in Whitehaven, Cumbria, which won't be a surprise to those of you that follow the channel. This is what the current station looks like, which is a shadow of its former self, as is the case with a lot of places. And the current station is basically a through station with a small bay platform, which is quite different to what it used to be like. So originally, before Bransley Tunnel was constructed, which provided the link between the north and the south lines, there were two terminus stations in Whitehaven. The LNWR one in the north, which is the current station, or Bransley Station as it was originally known, and in the south you had the Furness Railways terminus called Preston Street. So once the tunnel was built, then Bransley became the main passenger station and Preston Street became a goods yard, which you'll know if you watch my Preston Street video. So using old OS maps for the area, I measured out that I could fit a representation of the old station onto this board. So in this old photo you can see the train shed, which I worked out would run most of the length of the platforms. Unsure as to whether I'd model that, because if you put the glass canopy on then you might not see the trains terribly well, or maybe just to include the frame, which I've seen done really well on I think it was the Liverpool Lime Street layout, and I think it was a Fort William Engage layout I saw recently that had the same effect, so that might work. In this slightly earlier photo you can see the entrance to the station before the train shed was built, so you just got a canopy running along the platforms, which might be a better thing to model. Another thing that really appeals about this build, or this modelling this area I suppose, is the inclusion of the old Grand Hotel, which sat alongside the station before it was destroyed by fire in the 1940s, I think it was. It's quite a fine hotel, as you can see in these photos, and it had an elevated walkway that ran between the hotel and the station to allow guests to get direct access to the platform without coming down to ground level, which looked quite cool and quite a neat feature to model. For the operation of this layout, you're going to need I reckon I'd need a decent sized fiddle yard beside the board to allow trains to come and go, probably not far off the same size as the board. You could probably run this as analog control or DCC. I think you could probably get away with both. But the thing that sort of ruled this one out for me at the moment is that I wouldn't be able to model the rest of the station. So this is kind of the bit that you can see highlighted now. It's kind of the bit to the original part of the station, the part to the west. What I would like to do if I was going to model this bit would be also to model the current through platforms, and also the slightly older but not as old as the rest of it station building. So basically have the whole of Bransley Station modelled, probably more as it would be in kind of the 1930s onwards. To do that you need, I reckon probably another board alongside it, and then another board kind of looking out towards William Pitt. And you probably want to, if I was going to do that, then I probably want to model the pit as well, and then yeah, it just suddenly becomes far too bigger a layout for me to actually fit in the space I've got. So I'm not going to take this one forward. The second idea I came up with was a kind of representation of DRS's current Kingmore Depot in Carlisle. Using Google Maps again, I worked out I could fit most of the southern part of the depot from kind of the mouth beside the West Coast main line up to the engine sheds, and kind of using those as like a screen break at the far end of the layout. There's plenty of room to model all of that. You get quite a lot of space in front for the loco storage as per the prototype, and I think it'll look really good for showing off lots of DRS locos that I've got. At the eastern end, there's space for an inclusion of a runaround. I think that's what it's used for by the look of it. So you can have coaches arriving and then your engine running around, and then shunting those into the coach sidings, which look to be on the west side, using the fiddle yard as like a head shunt. I like the Brandsty idea. This is probably going to need to be digital control. I think you could do it analog, but you're going to require a lot of isolating sections, and it'd be quite tricky to do. Unlike the Brandsty idea, I don't think you need a really big fiddle yard to make this work. If you're not going to model the coaches arriving, and even if you do, some of the DRS coaches are kind of maybe 2 coaches long, if it's like the escort coaches used for the nuclear flasks, so you don't need like a 6 or 8 coach train arriving to then run around. You can get away with just a couple. So yeah, and apart from that, you're only going to have maybe a couple of flasks or an engine arriving, so you can get away with quite a small fiddle yard for this, I think. And I'll probably use my kind of Kato track fiddle yard approach for this, because yeah, I don't think you need a really fancy fiddle yard for it. Reason I'm probably not going to take this one forward is that I've discovered from my Salterbeck layout that just moving engines around isn't really my thing. So yeah, I'm not going to take this one forward either. And the final idea I've had so far, and the current favourite, is a representation of Glasgow Queen Street Station in Glasgow. So for those that don't know, Glasgow has got 2 main termini: Glasgow Central for lines to the south and the west, and Glasgow Queen Street for lines to the north and the east. Although there are services that do slightly different directions, but that's the general trend. Yet again, I used Google Maps to kind of work out that I could actually fit basically the whole of the main concourse out to where the tracks go under the Buchanan Galleries car park onto the board. And again, just like Brandsty, we're going to need a decent sized fiddle yard for the operations. And yeah, as a terminus, probably going to need, it's going to need full size trains going in and out, so that's going to be quite a big fiddle yard to do this. Along the far side will be the walls of the station that then go up to Dundas Street, forming quite a nice back scene, I think. And at the station throat end, this would sort of disappear into the fiddle yard underneath the Buchanan Galleries car park. Like the Brandsty idea, there is quite a substantial train shed, far more actually substantial than the Brandsty one. But I think you really need to model this, and because yeah, it's a big part of the station, and why would you model Glasgow Queen Street without the enormous shed on it? I think this would be modelled, if I'm going to model it, I'm going to do this without the glass. And I've had a look, and I think Scale Model Scenery do a canopy kit that would probably need to be modified a wee bit to fit the area, but yeah, that would probably be what I'd do, and just kind of have the canopy outlines and like the framing, but not the glass, in it. Alternatively, I think depending on how you're going to view it, I think if you're kind of down at sort of passenger height, then maybe you could put the glass canopy on. I haven't quite thought that through, but yeah, and that might help sort of constraining the view a little bit, so you don't want to look down into the fiddle yard, you just want to kind of look across towards the north end. The track plan is fairly simple. You got multiple tracks heading directly into the fiddle yard. You don't need to bother with any points, I don't think, if you just kind of want to fit onto this board, because everything just disappears into the fiddle yard onto the car park. I'm thinking, because I've got both digital and analog ScotRail trains, I think I'll probably have some platforms set up to be digital, some analog, or maybe switch between them depending on how I felt. And yeah, so those are the thoughts I've had so far for this board. As I said, Queen Street Station is the current favourite, as I would like to do another Glasgow layout. I've done quite a lot of Cumbrian layouts to date, and it'd be nice to do another Glasgow one. I think it'd be quite a challenge for me as well to kind of do a major Terminus Station. It'd be a lot of effort, a lot of detail, quite a bit of different scale to anything I've done before. So yeah, I quite like the idea of that. If you've got any thoughts yourself for what I should do, then yeah, please let me know. Yeah, if you've enjoyed this latest ideas video, please leave a like, consider leaving a comment, and yeah, I'll hopefully see you all next time.